Hello, we're here at Innovista Law, the house of the TCPA Defense Force. My name is Ernesto Mendieta.
And I'm John Nelson.
And today we're going to talk about a subject that concerns a lot of our clients. This is record-keeping obligations under the TCPA. As you know, the TCPA requires you to get prior written express consent from whoever you're going to send marketing messages. And we constantly receive questions, well, now that I get the consent, how long do I have to keep evidence of that consent? So, John, what can you tell us about the term of record-keeping obligation?
Sure. So short answer, you need to keep it for 4 years after the last message you sent. Okay. Now, to be clear, and give you, I guess, a little more long reasoned explanation, the TCPA itself does not mandate record keeping. So a lot of our clients may think it's not important for me to keep these records because the act itself doesn't require me to. But in reality, there is this fancy legal term called the statute of limitations, which I'm sure a lot of you had heard before. And it's the amount of time from which a consumer may sue you for a violation. And in the case of the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, that is 4 years from the date you sent that message that was in violation of the law.
Okay, so 4 years at least.
At least,
okay.
Correct.
Yes, because if you end up going to court, you're going to want to prove to the court that you actually had good records, you had a factual way of proving what type of consent you had, what messages did you send, and what persons were you targeting. So
yes.
What can you tell us about the best practices in record keeping?
Sure. So again, like you just mentioned, it's not necessarily just saving that one message. It's saving everything. It's number one, saving the consent, not saving the consent from 4 years from the date you obtain that consent, but from the last message. So ideally 4+ years, really. And you also want to save and document that entire message flow or message campaign that you had with that consumer and the interaction you had, so that at the end of the day, you really have a streamlined and detailed history of your brand's engagement with that consumer, from whatever marketing message they saw or billboard that brought them to sign up for your service, to obtaining their express written consent, to the messages that you engaged them in, all the way up to the time they stopped having that relationship with you. So that in the event you are sued and the consumer claims to have never seen an ad from you, only received 30 or 40 messages when in reality you sent 10, you have an extensive record of everything that you did, so you can immediately combat the allegations that they make and really force them to go away.
Yeah, because you may end up having a plaintiff that comes to court and says, I received 30 messages that I didn't consent to, but in reality you only sent one text messages by mistake, by whatever reason, and if you're able to prove that you have properly kept records, that evidence will have value.
And that's an important point. When you get to trial, we often see a lot of cases where it's actually a he said, she said dynamic, right? You don't have evidence that you obtained that consent as a brand or marketer. The plaintiff suing you doesn't have evidence of how many messages they received, or they have screenshots maybe, and you don't have something to fight back that. But the benefit of keeping these records and regularly keeping them is because there's a rule, an evidentiary rule that allows in regularly kept business records. So if your brand has a practice of keeping these messages, keeping them organized, keeping them stored, saving them, it's something you can bring into trial and really quash that case from the moment it is presented, if it gets to that point.
Okay, so summarizing, you have to keep records for at least 4 years, but ideally as long as you can. Also, ideally, you should keep everything you can in order to prove what kind of messages you sent, what people received the messages, what was the content of the messages, and what about trying to get some more reliability in case you end up in court?
Sure. So you again, all of this really is meaningless if you aren't keeping the records in an organized and effective way. If you have these records, but they're disorganized, it takes you a long time to put them together, that can greatly harm your chances of getting rid of a professional plaintiff or professional plaintiff's attorney right away. Because typically what will happen in a TCPA case is a plaintiff's attorney will first send a demand letter, not file a lawsuit, send a demand letter really requesting a quick payoff to go away, claiming to have received these messages. But if you can quickly and effectively gather your information, present it to the attorney, and show them that, listen, this isn't a fight you want to get in. We have things regularly kept, regularly organized. It's all detailed. They likely will go away. But if it takes you time to gather this information, you're running around trying to get it, and the plaintiff's attorney is hearing crickets from you, chances are they're going to press forward with litigation, which again can be more costly for you, your brand, even if at the end of the day you can somehow gather these records.
Yeah, so it sounds convenient to have written procedures of how to store information, how to be able to collect it when requested. Your IT people must know these written procedures, all your employees must know about it and be trained for it. So we're just trying to get into the ideal world of record keeping.
Mm-hmm. And the benefit is with the cost of data storage now declining, this is something that's easy and affordable for you to do.
Of course, it can be done. You can have it all in hard drive instead of boxes and boxes
Correct.
somewhere. Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
I was Ernesto Mendieta. This is Innovista Law, the house of the TCPA Defense Force.
Thank you.